Hi, Bryce Cosman. Today we will be reading an excerpt from theconversation.com, and by excerpt I mean I'm going to read a whole entire article, so it's not really an excerpt, concerning background noise. This was brought up to me by my friend Charles. I found out that the background noise is my laptop, but I'm reading this on my laptop, and I don't want to get a microphone, so it's going to be there as a comforting presence. This article is titled How John Berger Changed Our Way of Seeing Art, published on January 5th, 2017 at 6:54 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It was written by Yasmin Gunaratnam. She's a reader in sociology, Goldsmiths, University of London, and by Vicky Bell, professor of sociology, Goldsmiths, University of London. So they're probably buddies. I found out about John Berger because he has this book. It's called Ways of Seeing. Just ordered that on eBay. It's $4.21, I think, after everything. That should get here within the next couple days. The opening to John Berger's most famous written work, the 1972 book Ways of Seeing, offered not just an idea but also an invitation to see and know the world differently. The relation between what we see and what we know is never settled, he wrote. Berger, who died on January 2nd, so keep in mind this was written January 5th of last year. This is 3 days after his death. They really didn't leave him any time to settle in the casket. That was a bad joke. Berger, who died on January 2nd at the age of 90, has had a profound influence on the popular understanding of art and the visual image. He was also a vibrant example of the public intellectual, using his position to speak out against social injustices and to lend his support to artists and activists across the world. Berger's approach to art came most directly into the public eye in four-part BBC TV series Ways of Seeing in 1972, produced by Mike Dibb, and which preceded the book. Yet his style of blending Marxist sensibility and art theory with attention to small gestures, scenes, and personal stories developed much earlier in essays for the independent weekly magazine New Statesman between 1951 and 1961, and also in his first novel, A Painter of Our Time, published in 1958. Then in the article there is a link to the YouTube video Ways of Seeing, Episode 1. The BBC programs brought to life and democratized scholarly ideas and text through dramatic, often witty visual techniques that raised searching questions about how images, from European oil painting to photography and modern advertising, inform and seep into everyday life and help constitute its inequities. What do we see? How are we seen? Might we see differently? Berger's theoretical legacy, the Indian academic Rashmi Doraiswamy wrote recently, is in situating the look in the context of political otherness. Berger's idea that looking is a political act, perhaps even a historically constructed process, such that where and when we see something will affect what we see, comes across most powerfully in the second episode of Ways of Seeing, which focused on the male gaze. Here, Berger showed the continuities between post-Renaissance European paintings of women and imagery from latter-day posters and girly magazines by juxtaposing the different images, showing how they similarly rendered women as objects. Berger argued that this continuity constrained how certain forms of femininity are understood, and therefore the terms on which women are able to live their lives. He identified a splitting of the European woman's consciousness in which she... This is one of those quote things where it's like smaller text, and it's kind of like tabbed in, and it's like, it's different. He identified a splitting of the European woman's consciousness in which she has to survey everything she is and everything she does, because how she appears to others, and ultimately how she appears to men, is of crucial importance for what is normally thought of as the success of her life. Oh man, we still have a lot of this. This is going to be long. I hope it's going to be less than 15 minutes because I have a 15-minute limit. I don't know why, but that's what YouTube told me. Subheading: How We See. Historical context, scale, and how we see were recurring themes in Berger's writing, films, performance, and in his collaborative photographic essays with John Moore, Anne Michaels, Teresa Stelikova, and others. Berger's essays and books on the photograph worry at the political ambiguity of meaning in an image. He taught us that photographs always need language and require a narrative of some sort to make sense. He also took care to differentiate how our reaction to photographs of loved ones depends on our relationship to the person portrayed. In A Seventh Man, a collaborative book with John Moore on Turkish migrant workers to Germany in the 1970s, he simply put, there's a quote thing again, a photograph of a boy in the rain, a boy unknown to you or me, seen in the dark room when making the print or seen in this book when reading it, the image conjures up the vivid presence of the unknown boy. To his father, it would define the boy's absence. And then we got another subheading. This is the last part. Under the Skin. Because he had been a painter, Berger was always a visual thinker and writer. In conversation with the novelist Michael Ondaatje, he remarked that the capabilities of cinematography... This is going to be a long pause. I have to regroup. Cinematographic? Cinematographic? I don't know why I don't know how to say this word.
What word?
Cinematographic.
Cinematographic.
We're not cutting this out. In conversation with the novelist Michael Ondaatje, he remarked that the capabilities of cinematographic editing had influenced his writing. He identified cinema's ability to move from expansive vistas to close-up shots as that to which he most related and aspired. Certainly, Berger's work is infused with a sensitivity to how long views, the narratives of history, come alive only with the addition of close-up stories of human relationships that retell the narrative but from a different angle. For instance, writing about Frida Kahlo's compulsion to paint on smooth skin-like surfaces, Berger suggested that it was Kahlo's pain and disability, she had spina bifida and had gone through treatments following a bad road accident, that made her aware of the skin of everything alive, trees, fruit, water, birds, and naturally other women and men. The character in Ondaatje's novel, in The Skin of a Lion, to whom he gave the name Caravaggio, was partly inspired by Berger's essay on the painter. In that essay, Berger wrote of a feeling of complicity with the Renaissance Italian artist Caravaggio, the painter of life, who does not depict the world for others. His vision is one that he shares with it. Berger's writerly inclinations and sensitivities seem to echo something of the overall intensity, the lack of proper distance for which Caravaggio was so criticized, and which Berger so admired. This intensity was not a simple theatricality, nor a search for something truer to life, but a philosophical stance springing from his pursuit of equality. He gave us permission to dwell on those aspects of our research or our lives that capture us intensely, and to trust that sensitivity. His was an affirmative politics in this sense. It started with a trust in one's intuitions, along with the imperative to open these up to explore ourselves as situated within wider social and historical processes. Reflecting on his written work, Berger wrote in the recent Penguin collection, Confabulations, "What has prompted me to write over the years is the hunch that something needs to be told, and that if I don't try to tell it, it risks not being told." He knew very well that writing has its limitations. By itself, writing cannot rebalance the inequities of the present or establish new ways of seeing, yet he wrote with hope. He showed us in his work, and, by example, other possibilities for living a life that was committed to criticizing inequality while celebrating the beauty in the world, giving attention to its color, rhythm, and joyous surprises. We remain endowed and indebted to him. That's the end. That's about it, really. There were a couple stumbling blocks in there, but, stumbling blocks happen, and we should acknowledge them. My mouth feels kind of weird. It always feels weird when I read a lot, why when I read aloud, not when I just read. That'd be weird. That's about it.